Hello, I'm your host, Garrett Tobias. Today on the History Channel, we have something very special for you. We brought in our top analysts to find the top 10 events in U.S. history. In order for these events to be considered into the top 10, they must meet certain requirements. The events must have united the U.S. or completed a nationwide goal. The event also should have had led the nation to what it is today. To help explain why we chose these events, we interviewed people and brought in some of the best historians. And now our top 10, sponsored by Degree. Landing in at number 10, we have Apollo 11. Apollo 11 carried Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to the moon and safely landed on June 20th, 1969, making these the first people to ever set foot on the moon. Why is this ranked at number 10? One of our top historians will tell you.
The nation was unified around a common goal, winning the space race over Russia. Hundreds of millions around the world watched and anticipated the landing of Apollo 11. The landing showed the technical superpower of the U.S. and added to America's high prestige in the world.
So the landing of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the moon put America ahead of the Soviets. But how did this affect the nation and help us become what we are today?
This was not just an event that put people on the moon, Garrett. The accomplishment was during the period of the Cold War. The space race, as this was called, was a large part of the Cold War. The Soviets had already put a satellite, animal, woman, and man into space, and the U.S. was greatly lacking in this race.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Exploding their way into number 9, the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. On August 6th and 9th, 1945, 2 atomic bombs were dropped on Japan after scientists had found a way to control a nuclear chain reaction. Our historians explain why this event is ranked at number 9.
After the Nazis surrendered, Japan was the only threat left to the United States during World War II. Military officials had 2 choices: invade Japan and have a plethora of casualties, or drop a bomb and have Japan surrender.
Sponsored by Wise.
But how does this unite America? It allowed for a war victory, but what else did it do?
The bombings, although not something that everyone wanted, did bring World War II to an end. The advancements in this field of technology during the 40s was a great success and led to many helpful inventions later on. At the same time, the arms race had begun between America and the USSR. Because of this event, it brought America together to fight for one thing: the destruction of communism.
Revolutionizing their way into number 8 comes 2 very related events: the Boston Massacre and the Boston Tea Party. The Boston Massacre occurred on March 5th, 1770, when the British troops fired into a protesting crowd, killing 5 civilians. Then, a few years later, on December 16, 1773, Samuel Adams and the Sons of Liberty boarded 3 ships and threw 342 chests of tea into the Boston Harbor. Giving us a first-person opinion on the Boston Tea Party is Jefferson Whitney, a British soldier that saw the whole event go down while he was off duty.
For the record, you look much like Dembo. But anyways, I'm a bit cheesed off about the whole rubber scenario. I was just out minding my own when these chums started throwing the tea overboard. It was 6s and 7s, I tell you. These blinkered scumbags stole the precious tea in the sea. I was too squiffy and wonky to do something, though, so I let it go.
Thank you. So, why were these events considered important?
Well, you see, tensions have been growing between the colonies and Britain even years before these events. The civilians gathered around the Commons House on the day of the massacre were mad about British troops that were occupying Boston. These troops were to enforce the very unpopular acts that the Parliament had established. The Tea Party was a direct response to the Tea Act of 1773. Both these events led to greater tensions between the colonists and Britain. These events also led the colonists to band together to oppose the British Parliament. Without these two things, the American Revolution would have never sparked.
Crashing into the 7th spot of our top 10 events is the stock market crash of October 29th, 1929. Many people lost everything they had, leading to the worst depression in American history. Now we head to Jessica Sampson in New York.
Hello, Garrett. I'm reporting from 1932. As you can see, I'm on Wall Street in New York City. Almost 3 years ago, the stock market crashed at this very location. Can I have a word with you, sir?
Sure.
Why are you out here running?
Well, you see, this is my only way of transportation.
Is this due to the stock market crash on October 29th, 1929, leading to the Great Depression?
Yes, after the crash, I lost everything. My job, my house, my money, even my wife was thinking about leaving me.
That is so sad to hear, sir.
Yes, I know. And now I'm out here running as a hot dog, trying to get jobs, but they don't serve them like they used to, like these hot dogs.
Thank you for your time, sir. You can be on your way. Back to you, Garrett.
Wow, Jessica, that was truly a great interview from 1932. But why was this event so important to the U.S.? How did it unify us as a nation? And how did it bring us to where we are today? Our next historian will tell you why.
Well, Garrett, to really understand what happened, we need to go back to a week before the crash, as stocks were rapidly falling. Panic began to set in the eyes of Americans. All at once, people started selling shares at insanely low rates, leading to the stock market crash. The crash leads to one of the poorest times in American history. Many people were left out of work and with no money. The crash leads to the Great Depression. As a country, we learned a lot from this tough time and learned how to overcome even the toughest of struggles. The crash led us to become a stronger nation, and we were molded by its difficulty.
Buying its way into the number 6 spot is the Louisiana Purchase, a territorial purchase by Thomas Jefferson in 1803. Jefferson bought the land from Napoleon on a deal that no one could refuse, regardless of the arguments against it. The entire lot for only $10 million. Why number 6? Our historians will tell you.
The Louisiana Purchase doubled the U.S. land in 1803. This caused the U.S. to have more power from this purchase. This caused a new way of thinking that would appear later in history as manifest destiny. This caused the U.S. to gain all the land we have now.
So the Louisiana Purchase was very important.
Yes, especially the idea of manifest destiny. Manifest destiny was the belief that America's God-given right was to occupy sea to shining sea. A belief many Americans unified around. Like I said before, it led to the nation to the territory it has today. The belief of manifest destiny influenced millions of Americans to move west and gain all of its territory from the previous owners, leading to the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, giving us present-day California, Nevada, Arizona, and much more land in the Mexican Cession.
I had a dream that Martin Luther King Jr. was going to make the number 5 spot. He was born on January 15th, 1929, and was assassinated on April 4th, 1968. He was a civil rights activist that influenced many, if not all Americans through his many speeches, marches, and was even thrown in jail to prove his right on civil rights.
They say people have a destiny or fate from birth. Martin Luther King thought his was to fight for everyone's equal right. He had a dream that his children would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by who they are as a person. This wasn't just so he could live free. His dream was for everyone, for then and generations to come, even if he never got to live through and experience the end result. He was doing this for everyone. He had a dream, and he found it.
Where would this nation be without King? how would we live? Our top algorithmic future predicting scientist tells us.
Hello, Garrett. Without King, the nation would be completely different because King was a key factor to the civil rights movement. However, if he had never been born, where are we? That's hard to say. Someone else may have stepped up. Maybe no one would. But we can say that without him, this country would be very behind where we are today in the civil rights.
A valid point, because King united millions around a common goal with his impactful words. Many laws were changed because of his speeches, and now he influenced the minds of everyone in America. He had a dream and was determined to reach it, and he did.
Just as I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Reconstructing its way into the number 4 spot are the 13th through the 15th Amendments. On December 6, 1865, Congress ratified the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery and all involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime. Then, July 9, 1868, the 14th Amendment was ratified, which declared that all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. were citizens, that any state that denied or abridged the voting rights of males over the age of 21 would be subject to proportional reductions in its representation in the U.S. House of Representatives. Lastly, on February 3, 1870, the 15th Amendment was ratified, which stopped any state from depriving any citizen of his vote because of race, color, or previous condition of servitude.
To add on that wonderful explanation, it united the citizens of the U.S. to stand up for these rights, and this was just a start for civil rights. As you can see from Martin Luther King Jr., who was one of the activists that was after the amendments and who stood up for them, as led them to be accepted by many more people.
Thank you for the explanation. At number 3 comes a very recent event, 9/11. On September 11, 2001, Al-Qaeda terrorists flew hijacked planes into 2 World Trade Center towers and the Pentagon. Al-Qaeda wanted to demonstrate their power and at the same time wanted revenge on America for intervening in the Middle East. These events shocked the nation, but at the same time unified us together.
9/11 was one of the worst events to happen on U.S. soil, causing almost 3,000 deaths. It was a terrible day, but 9/11 led our nation to what it is today.
After the attacks, President Bush started his war on terror. This war was against terrorists, causing mayhem not only in the Middle East, but also in other countries. The war on terror led to both the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, which lasted over 10 years. They helped remove terror cells from the Middle East, leading to a more peaceful world. 9/11 also brought Americans together to stand united. Everyone worked together to help those who had been affected by the attacks.
On December 7, 1941, a shocking event took place at Pearl Harbor. Hundreds of Japanese fighter planes attacked the naval base for 2 hours, killing and injuring over 3,000 people. Why the number 2 spot? Another top historian will help explain. One way to help us understand this event is to figure out why Japan attacked. As President Roosevelt stopped the export of oil, steel, and scrap metal to Japan, the economy and military of Japan greatly suffered. A second reason to attack is that Japan was on the pathway of becoming the strongest naval power in the world. Only the U.S. stood in their way. A third is that Japan wanted to take control of Asia, but the U.S. would not allow it. That's 3 reasons to attack, and at this point Japan had 2 options: stay quiet or fight for control. So clearly they attacked for control, but doing that sparked a sleeping giant in America, causing an angry nation to join World War II.
After the attack, President FDR declared a war on Japan and joined into World War II. The victory of the war and the atomic bomb usage, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, demonstrated America's military power and started the arms race on nuclear weapons, eventually leading to the Cold War. The American people were united in the demonstrations to go to war.
And here's some events that came close to the top 10 but just didn't cut it. History Channel's Close But No Cigars. Sponsored by Degree.
If it's any consolation, you had me convinced.
It's not.
I was thinking, what if we go public, plaster the story all over the internet? It's not like we have our reputations to worry about. Although, I don't think that's exactly going to scare Ian away.
180 years of searching, and I'm 3 feet away. Of all the words written here about freedom, there's a line that's at the heart of all the others. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. People don't talk that way anymore.
Beautiful. Huh. No idea what you said.
It means if there's something wrong, those who have the ability to take action have the responsibility to take action. I'm gonna steal it.
What?
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Ben?
Stealing the #1 spot on our countdown for the most important unifying event in U.S. history is the signing of the Declaration of Independence. On July 4th, 1776, the Declaration was signed and put into place. The Declaration was credited to be created mostly by Jefferson, Adams, and Franklin, and 2 other relevants. Now our historian will explain why this takes the #1 spot.
The Declaration of Independence is a very important document. The document was to gain independence from Britain and become its own independent nation. Bill of Rights, Constitution, Articles of Confederation. Why would we need these documents without the Declaration of Independence? We wouldn't be a free nation with its own government.
Well, that is true, but wouldn't a different document be created?
Well, yes, you could say that. But you can also say that Hoover was get president, but we all know how that went. But anyways, yes, another document could be created, but if that happened, our whole country would be based on an entire different set of principles. You can say, what if the Constitution, Bill of Rights weren't made? But they were all made, and only because of the Declaration of Independence.
This just in. We found actual video footage of Jefferson writing the Declaration of Independence.
Order to place before mankind the common sense of the matter in terms so plain and simple as to command their assent.
So why is this truly ranked at #1? Another historian will now tell you why.
It allowed America to become its own nation, separate from English rule. Long story short, why does this come before all the other events? Because without this exact document, all the other stuff would not have happened. The timing would be off. Everything is off. All events are different.
First formal statement by a nation's people asserting their right to choose their own government, the Declaration of Independence became a significant landmark in the history of democracy and the United States. In addition to its importance and the fate of the unifying nation, it also created a huge influence outside of the U.S.
But how did this unified nation bring us to what we are today?
America gained its independence from Britain, which gave us the freedom we have today. It also made America come together as one new nation with new struggles and new ideas, leading to what we have today. Even though it was not the most perfect document, without it, we could still be under British rule, not free. The imperfections of the document allowed for the future to take place, thus forming the nation we have today, making everyone come together to make the nation better and better.
Did you expect the Declaration to be in the #1 spot? Tell us on History.com. This concludes the top 10 events in U.S. history, sponsored by Degree. I hope you've enjoyed. Join us next week to learn about the top 10 characters in the hit sitcom Seinfeld. This is Garrett Tobias, signing off. The interviews are not actually real people. The interviews are only an accurate representation of the thoughts and feelings of the historical topic. Everything shown and said is historically accurate to the best ability. We also do not own any of the video or photographic content shown.